Something extremely scary just emerged in downtown Los Angeles. The once bustling cultural commerce and entertainment hub is now characterized by empty storefronts and abandoned buildings. Known for its glitz and glamour, the decline of downtown Los Angeles raises questions about the future of urban development and the challenges facing modern cities. But all this is nothing compared to what has just been discovered in the heart of downtown Los Angeles. These revelations will shock your heart as they contain the government's long-concealed, deep secrets. Without wasting much time, let's get into it. Downtown Los Angeles. Downtown LA is the business center of Los Angeles. As of 2020, it contains over 500,000 jobs and has a population of roughly 85,000 residents, with an estimated daytime population of over 200,000 people before the COVID-19 pandemic. Downtown Los Angeles is divided into neighborhoods and districts. Most districts are named for the activities concentrated there now or historically, such as the arts, fashion, banking, theater, toy, and jewelry districts. It is the hub for the city's urban rail transit system and the Pacific Surfliner and Metrolink commuter rail system, covering Greater Southern California. Also located downtown is the Civic Center, the administrative core of the city government. Historically, downtown held a dense concentration of banks, department stores, and movie palaces that drew residents and visitors of all socioeconomic classes. However, after the 1950s, the area began to experience an economic decline. Then it came back to life. However, COVID-19 arrived and sapped the city's juice. And now downtown has completely become a shadow of itself. Even the earth beneath your feet shows signs of abuse when you walk through this abandoned urban setting. Graffiti artists have left their mark on the concrete, transforming it into a somber guest book that honors the forgotten. At Main Street and 14th Street intersect, the once thriving businesses have closed and are now silent. People are moving through an abandoned space, looking on the ground for anything of value that may still be there. They rummage through the wreckage of once active stores, looking for anything that can indicate the area's previous vitality and energy, in addition to items. The scene grows more strange as you pass more shuttered businesses that are not expected to reopen soon. A King of Fur sign hangs slackly, proof of the obvious fall of the kingdom it once stood for and the remnants of sarcasm from the past. A little distance away, the once busty retail pharmacy's empty shop can be heard reverberating at the corner, its existence and purpose gone. The once grand Barclay Hotel has collapsed into a hollow shell, and the surrounding businesses are doomed to an unhappy end. In a scene as macabre as it is desperate, workers in hazardous material suits clean the hotel's entrance. This area of the city, 4th Street and Main Street, is a stark reminder of the past, a cynical commentary on the transient nature of human endeavors in the face of economic downturns and societal neglect, and a show of the unrelenting advance of urban decay that has turned this area into a ghost town of businesses. This formerly vibrant neighborhood is now a sobering illustration of urban failure, with its abandoned streets and boarded-up windows acting as a sobering reminder of the transience of urban wealth. As we go down the 400 block of Main Street, it is evident that this once vibrantly active neighborhood has drastically collapsed. With one abandoned store after another, like a never-ending chain of dominoes crumbling over, every corner and shopfront conveys a tale of financial misery. After hosting bustling eateries in the past, these spaces now have for lease signs hanging in their dusty windows, serving as a sobering reminder of the better times that have passed. The story continues at the shop next door, where a sense of desolation permeates the street as one establishment after another remains shuttered, deserted, and forgotten. Think about the former Viam's restaurant, now just another remnant of the past despite formerly being a bustling location full of diners and conversation. Its surface is so faded and unkempt that it almost seems to be whispering stories of its colorful past that are now obscured by silence and deterioration. Every closed shop we pass along the street contributes to the story of decline. Their windows are all dark and unwelcoming. This unrelenting trend keeps happening. Here, for lease signs are just as ubiquitous as street lamps, signifying the closure of another neighborhood company. These signs, each advertising yet another vacancy, another aspect of community life lost to economic downturns, seem to outnumber the people. Across the street, they are the same. The area is depressing and chilly with many stores shuttered. It can make you pause before entering. This specific corner is quite depressing. It's not only ugly, but also has a slightly ominous vibe, which highlights how badly this area of the town has changed. People passing this region appear in a rush, almost as if they are eager to leave. They may be attempting to escape the depressing images, or perhaps they're just trying to escape the pervasive sense of loss. Not only is this dismal environment unsettling, but it also conveys the tale of a neighborhood in disarray. Empty buildings are not the only thing at stake. What those buildings stand for is also important. Every locked door and dark window represents a lost job, a failing business, and a section of the community that has vanished. The vacant storefronts run up the street one after the other, forming a somber succession of reminders of better times that are long gone. They serve as sobering reminders of the state of the economy and the difficulties small company owners encounter in realizing their aspirations. The few people you see are moving rapidly and eager to go through without stopping while you gaze about. Their brisk gait and downward gaze imply that they are avoiding the concrete barriers of a rundown sidewalk and the depressing emotions that such a sight conjures. It's a place that makes you consider the social and psychological effects of such pervasive deterioration and the general state of a city's economy. What effects does the daily observation of such deterioration have on those who live in or near it? When the locations that once united a society became nothing more than barren wasteland, what effect did that have on it? This corner of the city tells a visual tale of encroaching neglect and loss of life. It is a striking illustration of urban decay. It serves as a reminder that a city's overall health depends on various factors, including safety, aesthetics, and a sense of community. People are clearly avoiding the closed stores and barriers, indicating that the effects of urban decline are far-reaching and impact the surrounding terrain and how people interact with it. Do you doubt that things could get worse? Join me as we move across the street, where the tale of neglect begins a new chapter. Economic decline. Let's go across the street to the other side, where the scene is more empty stores and, of course, comparable. The repeated closures and damage provide a comprehensive account of urban deterioration. The buildings, with their boarded-up windows, peeling paint, and the few people who walk quickly, show a neighborhood severely impacted by neglect and hopelessness. Every abandoned shop symbolizes a shut-down company and the larger issues facing the neighborhood and the city, highlighting the dire consequences of unstable economic conditions. As we go around this neighborhood, it becomes evident that many stores are closed. Apart from a string of silent, deserted businesses stretching down the street, there are no signs of customers. 3 empty stores, one after the other, seem silent memorials to a bygone era when this street was busier. The distant sound of sirens is almost appropriate in this place, contributing to the sense of a town that has lost its vitality. A for lease sign at the corner indicates that the store may have closed recently. A business that closed unexpectedly is hinted at by refrigerators that sit empty in the back and some things still on the shelf. As we continue, we find a row of deserted stores with for lease signs displayed in their windows. It is difficult to distinguish one from the other because they all have the same neglected appearance. There formerly was a restaurant in a certain location, now fully boarded up. Long-gone restaurant signs and paper-covered windows in the adjacent outdoor seating area indicate that it hasn't been used for dining for long. The sequence is repeated with multiple stores right close to each other. Every single one is shut, the windows are dim, and the areas are vacant. It's hard to imagine what these locations may have been in the past. One may have even been a hotel, but now they're just a part of the dilapidated landscape. This depressing motif continues on 7th and Main with a big empty corner building identified by a for lease sign that appears to be a regular sight in this area. The nearby stores are closed and abandoned, and they are in the same state. A closer look indicates that the Chinese restaurant across the street, which appears to be open initially, is most likely closed. Likewise, the next company on the corner appears to be closing for good, with its windows boarded up to deter trespassers. This isn't very pleasant. There is a string of more empty stores further down the road. Each has a for lease sign in front of it, indicating that it is for rent, but there isn't any indication that anyone is interested. Large, echoey interiors formerly home to busy businesses are now empty shadows of their former selves. This neighborhood, formerly home to bustling stores and eateries, is now starkly visible due to economic difficulties. The abandoned shops lining these streets serve as glaring reminders of the difficulties local business owners endure and brighter times past. In addition to reflecting the community's financial difficulties, the ongoing display of shuttered and vacant stores raises concerns about the neighborhood's potential for growth and recovery. The site of devastation disappears as we enter Los Angeles Street after walking down 7th Street. Shops are silent and deserted one after another, their windows boarded over rather than just closed. These boards are there to shield the outside world from the darkness that permeates the space, or perhaps to conceal the apathy that has descended upon this location. What were once busy storefronts are covered in layers of wooden planks, appearing to be haunted remnants of a bygone era of prosperity. The once bustling stores are now silent and abandoned. The stores have given up on fresh starts and are letting their fate end without even saying goodbye, as seen by the lack of for lease signs. The unrelenting parade of shuttered businesses is evidence of the extreme economic failure in this place. Another follows one huge empty room, and then another. Each was once a bustling center of activity and life, but now it's just empty spaces full of the ruins of broken dreams. It's shocking how much commerce has disappeared from this street, almost like a wave of neglect has washed everything away. Storefront after storefront, empty and abandoned, block after block. A lone for lease sign will occasionally poke out of a window, seeming taunting in the face of the general neglect. The fact that many stores no longer bother to have signage, their identity seemingly wiped clean as if forgotten, only highlights how utterly empty they are. A hollow echo echoes along the empty street because these spaces are huge, too big for the emptiness they hold today. The once bustling eatery has been replaced with a retail for lease sign, with the space inside split into two depressingly empty shells. The entry is still guarded, strangely kept, as if trying to cling to the memory of better days concealed behind its closed doors. This section of the road is a depressing example of economic collapse. Every vacant shop and every deserted lot tells a story of decay and collapse. What was formerly a thriving trade center has become a lonely ghost town. The large, empty interior spaces, the boarded-up windows, and the sporadic, melancholic for lease signs paint a picture of a community seemingly destroyed by economic prosperity. The eerie silence is a harsh warning of what happens when a neighborhood is abandoned and allowed to fall into disrepair. It seems as if you are strolling through a recently destroyed museum. The silence, the lack of vitality says 1,000 words. The walls, the empty storefronts, and the dusty windows all witness the story of decay. These areas, formerly bustling with activity and everyday trade, are now depressing reminders of a failing economy. It is a tangible depiction of decline, with financial crises effects being felt physically and viscerally. The oddity of the situation, offers of space in locations no one wants to inhabit, seems to be highlighted by the few signs that do appear. Each sign depicts the demise of a once thriving enterprise in addition to advertising open space. These signs feel less like invitations and more like tombstones since there is no activity. They symbolize failure rather than chance. Furthermore, the vastness of these voids heightens the unsettling ambiance. It seems they were not intended to be this silent and desolate because they are too big for the emptiness they enclose. The traces of previous operations, such as counters, shelving, and faded floor marks, testify of better times gone by. These are now only memories that are vanishing as fast as the paint on the walls. This hypothetical situation clearly illustrates what occurs when a community loses its economic vibrancy. Not only are businesses closing, but jobs, neighborhood security, and community engagement are also lost. The vacant stores signify more than simply physical voids. They also symbolize holes in the fabric of the neighborhood, absent links in a system of social contact, and local economic activity that ought to be thriving. As you walk down this street, it is becoming increasingly obvious how ugly urban deterioration is. It's a hard environment for the few people who still go by. Still, it also raises concerns about economic policy, urban planning, and inadequate community support systems that don't keep up with the demands of the locals. This area of vacant land serves as a visible reminder of how quickly urban prosperity may collapse without consistent investment and regeneration. As you venture further into this city, you discover what lies ahead seems more terrible than the latter. The stench of deterioration permeates the air. We thought we'd seen it all until we encountered this eerie location. It's beyond your expectations. More abandoned places. We find more stores. These are more compact, claustrophobic areas crammed against a parking lot that appears to have supplanted once vibrant businesses. Across the street, we observe the same depressing trend. More stores are tightly closed. All storefronts are sealed up, with windows covered or obscured, indicating no business activity occurs. We resolve to explore this side of the street further before crossing over. Still, it's difficult to overlook the state of deterioration even beneath our feet. The sidewalk is filthy and marked with graffiti. There's a bad stench permeating the air, which is decomposition. Looking down, we find the sidewalk filthy and crawling with flies. It feels unsafe to approach since there is so much buzzing about something terrible hidden from view. Upon turning onto 8th Street, the feeling of desertion remains strong. There's another abandoned building on the corner ahead. Its "For Lease" sign is miserably hanging by one corner and waving in the wind. The building's windows are so completely covered that it is impossible to see inside, where the Aldemar Hotel formerly stood, and likely provided tired visitors with a warm place to stay. It only serves to increase the lengthy number of abandoned spots now. These streets are lined with empty parking spaces, boarded up windows, and faded "For Lease" signs that all bear witness to deterioration. It's about more than just the closed enterprises. It's about the decline in local business and community life. This overwhelming emptiness creates a striking image of a community that has been neglected by economic development, and that people who may have once prospered there seem to have forgotten. This city area is engulfed in an overpowering sense of loss and neglect, as if the once vibrant sense of community has vanished. As we navigate the streets of downtown Los Angeles, we notice that it has changed greatly from its former vibrant metropolitan core. Rather, a depressing picture of the region is presented through a string of closures and missed opportunities. Particularly apparent are the remnants of a once bustling Mexican restaurant. With a lone "For Lease" sign flapping in the wind, the once inviting outdoor dining area has been reduced to a space and serves as a somber reminder of its former glory. The word "bonito," which refers to the restaurant, is still visible on a menu that is becoming dusty behind the boarded-up windows, eerily recalling when this space was bustling. It is as if you are strolling through a deserted commercial district. Every company has closed, and the windows that once allowed in plenty of light and activity have been replaced with wooden boards. Once promising signs advertising creation and innovation have become almost mocking, hanging over shuttered stores that have not been occupied in a long time. There used to be a jarring contrast between the promise and growth that once buzzed, and now there is only the calm of stagnation and decline. In sharp contrast to the many closures surrounding it, a tiny eatery remains open just across from this depressing scene. A little park nearby offers some greenery compared to the drab gray of shuttered stores. On the other hand, all the stores in the nearby shopping center are closed and have their doors securely shut to prevent vandals, telling the same tale as the rest of the block. The boarded-up storefronts have a certain immaculate appearance. No graffiti has been written on any of the boards, suggesting they haven't been touched since they were installed. However, this cleanliness emphasizes the extent of the area's collapse and appears ironic rather than consoling. Street signs proclaim restaurant and retail opportunity, but the truth is that these empty promises are met with empty shops and no indications of new occupants or activity. One empty store after another appears, all of them appearing just as deserted as the previous ones. When we get to the intersection of Olympic and Main, we see another abandoned retail location continuing the depressing pattern. Vandalism has been observed on its exterior, indicating the local community's anguish and disgust with the economic depression engulfing this city area. Once a bustling center of social life and trade, this entire region is a striking illustration of urban decline. The string of closings we've seen is more than simply a row of shuttered establishments. It's a glaring sign of the larger financial difficulties this neighborhood faces. Every shuttered store, with its chipped paint and dirty windows, contributes to the story of decay that appears to have engulfed downtown Los Angeles. This is about more than simply vacant buildings. It's also about the demise of the local economy, the lifelessness of communities, and the ghost of what was once a thriving area of the city. As we proceed through the neighborhood, we see the same tragic scene around every corner. Every shop that was once bustling with activity and full of patrons is now just a shuttered, forgotten, and empty shell. The graffiti that formerly provided some color has now been haphazardly painted over in a weak attempt to preserve some sense of order. This short repair does not well conceal the true anarchy underneath. The doors, which used to open wide to greet customers, are now inexplicably closed, as though attempting to keep the pleasant recollections of busy times gone. As we continue along Olympic Boulevard, the surroundings are surreal. They resemble a makeshift colony for people with nowhere else to go rather than a busy city street. The sidewalks have unintentionally become temporary sanctuaries for the homeless, as the shadowy storefront facades obscure them. As we get closer to Main Street, the scene of urban neglect worsens, reflecting the depressing vibe of Olympic. More shuttered stores, more abandoned buildings, their once vibrant presence reduced to a memory, indicated only by faded sale signs clinging desperately to the windows in a last-ditch effort to draw in whatever patrons that remain. There is a strong feeling of desertion throughout the region. Planks of wood and layers of peeling posters have replaced the once thriving company's colorful displays and upbeat signage, which are now silent and have their windows boarded up. There's a heavy feeling of loss in the air, not only of commerce, but also of neighborhood camaraderie and communal spirit. Every door shut adds a somber tribute to what was once a thriving city area to the story of deterioration. Looking around without feeling a great loss for the community that once flourished here is difficult. Previously, the streets, once alive with the sounds of laughter and the bustle of frantic customers, are suddenly strangely silent, except for the rare sound of the footfall of a bystander rushing by. The stores that had functioned as gathering spots for friends and neighbors are now empty places that only serve to bring back memories of the past. This place has become a ghost town after formerly being a thriving social interaction and trade center. Unavoidably, the sight of the boarded-up windows and the overgrown sidewalks conveys a message of neglect and decay. It serves as a sharp reminder of the vulnerability of urban ecosystems and how quickly they can deteriorate if neglected. The constant sight of shuttered stores and deserted buildings gets to be too much to handle. It's an apparent downward spiral that appears to go on forever. Every shuttered window, faded sign, and vacant lot conveys a different message about the severity of this neighborhood's social and economic problems. The desolate surroundings serve as a sobering reminder of what transpires when severe economic downturns and recovery attempts are insufficient. Around the next bend, the bustling existence of stores and conversation has given place to silence. When everything that once made a place vibrant is only a memory, what's left? The silent streets. The indications of closures denote more than just vacant spaces. They represent a significant shift in the city's topography. What was once a bustling neighborhood full of diners and retailers has changed into a hub for a community facing a crisis. Although the setting is similar to a national park where people camp voluntarily, in this case, people are camping out of need, which is a striking illustration of how society is adjusting to harsh urban realities. Originally a center of trade and social life, this city area now has a distinct function. A once thriving district is now in decline, as shown by the numerous boarded-up windows, faded for lease signs, and empty buildings. These placards serve as sad reminders of what has been lost and as notices of open space. The community that used to congregate here for meals and shopping has since evolved into something else entirely, existing in a space that has been adapted out of need rather than choice. The urban landscape has transformed from a setting for daily existence and financial success to one of survival. This change is profoundly sociological in nature, altering the neighborhood's very fabric in addition to its physical aspects. The new face of this place is the people who are still here, the ones who camp out in the shadow of closed businesses. They serve as a sobering reminder of the larger societal issues that require attention, and as a striking monument to people's flexibility and resiliency. This area, formerly brimming with activity, now represents a significant urban and social transformation. Walking around downtown Los Angeles streets, it seems like you're passing a patchwork of businesses that are either closing soon or having trouble remaining open. Most people are inclined toward the latter. There is a little glimmer of hope at one intersection where two businesses are barely scraping by. They stick out among the throng of for-lease signs that appear to be everywhere else, almost intransigently. A significant shift in the tale occurs across the street. The stores are empty, one after another. What were once bustling commercial hubs are now just deserted areas that serve as reminders of a more prosperous time. Their windows are adorned with somber for-lease signs that symbolize the decline of urban commercial life. Block after block, this depressing pattern is repeated. A once busty drugstore now stands empty, its clients and function in the community long gone. The surrounding storefronts suffered the same fate. They close, are locked up, and are forgotten. This motif of abandonment doesn't stop when you cross over to the other side. A clothes store that used to claim to have the best American clothing has fallen into oblivion. Just another casualty of what appears to be a commercial wasteland rather than a bustling retail area. Its for lease sign is a lonesome memento of bygone days, flapping in the breeze. Strolling down these streets is not like strolling through a busy urban neighborhood, but more like visiting a museum devoted to the recent economic catastrophe. A sign indicating that a store is open during regular business hours may occasionally appear. Still, upon closer examination, it will be shown that the sign is an illusion, and the store is just as vacant as any other. A nearby grocery store may be operating, a lone, bright activity spot in otherwise hopeless surroundings. Still, even this glimmer of optimism is soon obscured by the sight of additional shuttered businesses along the street just next to it. The unrelenting pattern of closure and degradation shadows the neighborhood. Every for lease sign and closed door conveys a narrative about the district's overall economic woes, not simply isolated company collapses. Once brimming with activity and trade, this area of Los Angeles is now struggling due to economic difficulties. Faded signs and abandoned storefronts provide a harsh image of a declining neighborhood. The sharp contrast between the several enterprises that have shuttered and the handful striving to survive highlights the difficulties this once thriving neighborhood faces. Is the fall of urban centers just the product of economic trends, or is it part of a deliberate plan to uproot some communities? Do you think downtown Los Angeles can be revived? But is Downturn Los Angeles that bad? Well, not really. There are a few things that you can still enjoy in downtown Los Angeles. For instance, there is the Walt Disney Concert Hall. As the crown jewel of the Music Center, Disney Hall opened in 2003 to rave reviews. The novelty hasn't yet worn off. This is a terrific venue inside and out. Designed by Frank Gehry, the hall is the home of the LA Philharmonic and the LA Master Chorale, but the schedule is surprisingly varied throughout the year. Take advantage of the free audio tour or get lost among the hidden nooks around the hall, including a hidden garden. It has also suddenly become a dining destination, with Ray Garcia's on-site restaurant Astrid and several Jose Andres spots across the street at the Grand LA. You can also visit the Grand Central Market. Even if you're not there for the food, this century-old spot is worth a trip. People from all corners of LA mix and mingle among rows of spices, produce, and vintage neon signage. Of course, if you're hungry, it's a great place to get cheap pupusas from Sarita's Pupuseria, carnitas from Tacos Tumbras Atomas, and chow mein from China Cafe, as well as food from handsome, trendy eateries like Sticky Rice, Sari Sari, Broad Street Oyster Company, Eggslut, and G&B Coffee. Then, you can decide to gaze into infinity at the broad downtown's persistently popular Contemporary Art Museum, which has two of Yayoi Kusama's mirror-laden rooms and, thankfully, a new reservation system to secure a spot in the most immersive one. Elsewhere in the free museum, Eli and Edith Abroad's collection of 2,000 post-war works includes artists like Andy Warhol, Roy Lichtenstein, Ed Ruscha, Cindy Sherman, Barbara Kruger, and Jeff Koons. Find out more in our complete guide to the Broad. And just before you thought you'd seen it all, classical performances and Broadway musicals were at the Music Center. The Center Theater Group programs two of the halls that make up downtown's original cultural complex. At the north end, the Amundsen Theater largely presents touring Broadway fare, while the smaller Mark Taper Forum stages a wide range of new dramas. Also part of the Music Center, the Grand Dorothy Chandler Pavilion is the home base for LA Opera and occasional concerts and dance events. Last, but certainly not least, the center also includes its neighbor across the street, the previously mentioned Disney Concert Hall, the slow, lumbering mission to turn downtown LA into a vibrant cultural hub got a lift when a portion of Grand Park's 12 acres officially opened to the public in July 2012. Dotted with fountains, picnic lawns, bright pink benches, and plenty of nooks to sit and people watch, Grand Park is a bright urban oasis that proves the city has a sense of romance. The park hosts performances, gatherings, and other community events. The main branch of LA's Museum of Contemporary Art, MoCA, houses thousands of artworks crafted from 1940 until now. Spend half an hour or an entire afternoon absorbing contemporary pieces from lesser-known artists, punctuated by sightings of Mark Rothko and Jackson Pollock's works. And maybe best of all, admission has been free since early 2020. As the oldest section of Los Angeles, where the city was first established in 1781 as a farming community, El Pueblo has an authentic Spanish-style feel. The area comprises 26 historic structures, 11 open to the public, and the famous Old Vera Street, full of local independent vendors selling various goods. The city's main library is worth a look, even if you have no interest in borrowing books. The exterior is of Egyptian and Mediterranean beauty, topped with a dramatic tiled pyramid tower decorated with bas-reliefs. The most stunning features reside in the second-floor rotunda, with its deco meets arabesque dome, California history mural, and globe chandelier. There's also a fine program of lectures and discussions in the Mark Taper Auditorium. It's not exactly cool by any means, but as far as sports and entertainment districts, Louisiana, Live gets the job done. Adjacent to the Crypto.com arena, it's the home of the Microsoft Theater, Regal Cinemas, and various bars, hotels, and restaurants, almost all plastered with big-screen TVs. The area is jam-packed almost every night of the week, especially pre-Lakers, Clippers, and Kings games, with tourists and locals alike. Angel's Flight, which you may recognize from La La Land, is literally the little funicular. The block-long railway has weathered mechanical problems, extended closures, and relocation to keep pulling passengers up Bunker Hill over a century after its initial opening. The two-tiered cars trailing its rails offer a view of the historic core below, and an amusingly bumpy ride. You can board Angel's Flight from either Hill Street or Olive Street. You can also view art at Mega Gallery Hauser and Worth Los Angeles. This former flour mill in the Arts District houses a rotating collection of contemporary art, plus an on-site restaurant, Manuela. Though it's technically a gallery, you'll probably walk away thinking it's a museum. The 116,000 square foot complex houses up to 3 exhibitions at a time, with a mix of post-war contemporary icons and of-the-moment working artists. Then, you have the Spring Arcade building. Enter the terracotta archway of this 1924 arcade, and you'll find a glass-roofed alleyway dotted with restaurants and shops. The crowds are still lighter than Grand Central Market, but the few food offerings here are strong. Stop by Guisados for a chorizo taco and some horchata, pick up some bao from Rice Box, or have a scoop at Uli's Gelato. If you're in the mood for a glass of wine, step into Garçons de Café, a wine bar and boutique that instantly transports you to Paris. Next is the Grammy Museum. Wind your way through 4 floors of rockstar memorabilia, film clips, and interactive exhibits. You can belt your heart out in a fake recording studio at this 30,000 square foot museum. Look out for the genre-spanning exhibitions at the LA Live Institution and intimate performances from remarkably popular musicians in the 200-seat Clive Davis Theater. Visit the original LA Flower Market in where else? The Flower District. Restaurateurs, wedding planners, florists, and botany geeks make up the early morning hustle and bustle among rows of flowers, plants, and floral accessories worldwide. Come out later during public hours to grab a bouquet for a friend, take some great pictures, or indulge your senses. Thanks for watching this video. Before you click off, please check out other videos on your screen.